Hey guys, it's Greg Jones for Motorcycle and Powersports News. Today on MPN Reviews, we're taking a look at Zero Motorcycles 2023 DSR-X. Alright guys, first things first, Zero's DSR-X is an electric dual sport motorcycle. As such, everyone has preconceived notions about it. Maybe it has to do with missing the sound of a gas engine, maybe it's the inability to have loud pipes on the bike. You inevitably have doubts about whether electric is practical for a wide range of riding styles or long distance. Whatever your hang-up might be, toss out those notions until you've actually been on an electric motorcycle from Zero. Zero first launched back in 2006 in a garage in Santa Cruz, California. In the 17 years since, Zero has grown into an internationally known motorcycle company, leading the charge, no pun intended, in electric motorcycle evolution. Zero has done an effective job of combining the best aspects of traditional motorcycles with today's advanced technology to produce electric motorcycles that are lightweight, efficient, fast, and fun. So what does that all mean for the DSR-X? Well, the 2023 DSR-X is a dual sport motorcycle equipped to handle on and off-road duties. We got to spend 3 weeks testing, riding, and looking over the DSR-X. So let's start this review with the motor. The bike is propelled by Zero's Z-Force 7510 interior permanent magnet AC motor that features enhanced thermal efficiency, is passively air-cooled, and torque optimized. The Z-Force delivers 100 horsepower and 166 foot-pounds of peak torque. It has an advertised top speed of 112 miles per hour, but if you're talking about sustained speed, that drops to 100 miles per hour. Moving on to the controller, which is akin to a gas bike's injection system, this meters the flow of electricity from the battery to the motor based on the rider's throttle. The DSR-X controller is a 900 amp 3-phase AC controller with regenerative deceleration. Now, moving on to the power system, aka the battery. The power system on the DSR-X is a Z-Force lithium-ion battery, which allows the motorcycle to travel farther, faster, and last longer. According to Zero, a typical battery pack can travel over 200,000 miles and still retain 80% of its original maximum capacity, which sounds pretty impressive. The power pack has a max capacity of 17.3 kilowatt hours and a normal capacity of 15.2 kilowatt hours. Now the bike comes with a 6.6 kilowatt charger that gets you to a 95% charge in roughly 2 hours and a full 100% charge in closer to 3 hours. If you incorporate Zero's optional 6 kilowatt rapid charger, which needs to be installed by a dealer, the bike can charge to 95% in an hour and be fully charged in roughly an hour and a half. Now in our experience charging the bike with the included charger, we felt it charged a little bit slower than those advertised times, which could just be because we typically were using a standard wall outlet, but regardless, it still charged plenty fast for typical use. After all, a large majority of charging will be done overnight in a garage, which is mostly what we did too. Now, helping put power to the tires of this Zero DSR-X is a clutchless direct drive transmission that is assisted by a Gates Carbon Drive Moto X9 belt drive. If you listen closely, and I mean closely, the belt drive is about the only thing you hear on the bike. All these features of the Zero help the DSR-X boast a range of 180 miles while city riding only. If you ride a combo of city and highway at speeds of 55 miles per hour, Zero claims 134 miles of range. And if you combine city riding and highway at speeds of 70 miles per hour, you get 115 miles range. And if you're just flying down the highway at 70, you can squeeze 85 miles out of the battery. I think you'd agree that this bike has some solid range. In my experience, rarely would you need to ride more than 80 to 100 miles at a time. However, the highway riding really did drain life out of the battery. If your trip is in that 80 to 100 mile distance and you're riding all highway around 70 miles per hour, you're definitely going to be staring at the battery life gauge quite a bit, and you'll likely need to do a quick charge to make it all the way. But if you want more battery for the bike than what comes standard, Zero does offer a power tank upgrade that increases the 17.3 kilowatt hour battery to 21 kilowatt hours. Obviously, if you're going to be riding distances well beyond 50 to 100 miles at a time quite often, then an electric motorcycle just isn't for you. You wouldn't want to take this bike across a state, multiple states, or the country. With charging times factored in, you'd be taking your sweet-ass time to get somewhere. And that's not to say that you couldn't accomplish those types of rides, but I know I wouldn't be eager to do it. Another aspect of the bike, outside of the motor, the power system, and the drivetrain, is that the DSR-X features Showa suspension in both the front and the rear. Both front and rear suspension setups offer adjustable preload, compression, and rebound damping, and both deliver nearly 7.5 inches of travel. For braking, Zero sports Bosch Advanced Motorcycle Stability Control with combined braking, vehicle hold control, and off-road mode. Up front are dual radial 4-piston calipers, while the rear features a 2x25mm piston floating caliper. The DSR-X also comes equipped with a set of Pirelli Scorpion Trail 2 tires. Okay, so those are the general features of the bike, but Zero motorcycles also feature the Cypher 3 Plus proprietary operating system. This software directs all of the motorcycle systems and gives you a wide variety of customization and upgrades through the Zero app as it tracks and delivers critical data from the motorcycle right to your fingertips. The Cypher gives you plenty to look at and play with here on your dash display. One of the coolest things is it gives you a full suite of pre-programmed ride modes, including Sport, Street, Eco, Rain, and Canyon, which are selectable on the fly through Zero's dash interface. Each mode has a different performance profile in key areas such as top speed, torque, braking, and neutral battery regeneration. If you utilize the Zero app, which frankly we didn't get into the weeds on, but we definitely recommend actual owners of the bike should, you can customize these ride modes and those various performance profiles. Again, we didn't have the time to play around much with the app and its features, but we do think it's awesome to have that level of customization, which you can only mimic on a gas bike by going to a tuner. Now, you've probably been looking at the DSR-X next to me and thinking to yourself, that's a pretty big bike. Well, it is. The DSR-X has a 60-inch wheelbase, a 32.6-inch seat height, and a curb weight of 544 pounds. It also has a carrying capacity of 556 pounds. The 2023 DSR-X has an MSRP of $24,495 and comes with a 2-year warranty. Now at that price, a few other nice features of the DSR-X include cruise control, heated grips with 4 levels of heat to choose from, parking mode, which provides a slow reverse gear, vehicle hold braking, which can be engaged when you come to a stop on a steep slope by clamping the brake lever all the way down and releasing it. This serves as a temporary parking brake to allow you to make any adjustments needed on a steep pitch. When the throttle is engaged, braking automatically deactivates. Now, the Bosch vehicle hold braking is also auto-canceling and will release brake pressure after 3 minutes, so keep that in mind if you do use it. It also has Bosch's motorcycle stability control, which is another nice feature of the DSR-X, and that delivers ABS, cornering brake control, traction control, and drag torque control. Additionally, there are some neat accessories available on the bike that elevate the rider experience, like multiple storage compartments and an adjustable windscreen. Optional accessories include saddlebags, a skid plate, other windscreen options, a cover, a bike mat, a top case, the extended battery, and more. You can visit zeromotorcycles.com/accessories to see all of those options. Okay, so those are the many specs and features of the DSR-X. Now let's get into our experience riding the Zero DSR-X. For me personally, a rider who only gets a handful of opportunities to hop on a bike each year, the DSR-X was a blast. I loved the convenience factor and couldn't help but think about its overall simplicity. No gas prices, no oil or filter changes, no cable or hoses, no clutch, no gears to shift, no spark plugs. Trust me, the list goes on. Having to only think about throttle and braking was a nice relief from otherwise having to deal with a clutch and shifting gears. In fact, my whole left side had nothing to do. The throttle is responsive, smooth, and very intuitive in terms of being able to go exactly how fast or slow you want it to go. Now, one thing you do notice quite a bit riding this bike is the inability to coast. Due to the regenerative deceleration, the bike uses those neutral moments to save power, so the bike slows down considerably. This is what riding any electric vehicle is like, so you get used to it pretty quickly, but you do notice that difference versus other motorcycles. The bike is also heavy at nearly 550 pounds, which I mentioned earlier, so maneuvering the bike in a garage or into a parking spot was a little harder than you may want it to be. However, the parking mode is helpful for backing up. While riding, the bike was pretty nimble and felt very well balanced. The different ride modes were fun to change between, but I found it a little bit difficult to navigate. It took some getting used to in order to work your way through the options and find where various modes could be controlled, or how to go back to the menu if you selected something incorrectly. You also get different options depending on whether the kickstand is up or down. Ride modes can only be selected if the kickstand is up. Now the Cypher interface works, but it did feel a little clunky until we got the hang of it. That said, it's very cool to have that kind of adjustability and personalization available on your motorcycle. A few quick buttons and you have a whole different riding experience. And again, the Zero app takes it even a step further. Lastly, and it's the biggest thing of note, the battery and riding range. Riding here around town and near our offices, the Zero hardly broke a sweat and maintained excellent battery power. When I did take it on the highway for 30 to 50 mile rides, the battery definitely drains quicker, but again, I made it to my destinations without a hitch. In the evening or overnight, I simply charged the battery. We also had our colleague Josh Trokey test ride the DSR-X, as he's a more experienced rider and a guy who loves the dual sport capability. So here's Josh with some of his thoughts.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. As I said, I am Josh with Motorcycle and Powersports News, and we're going to talk about the Zero DSX-R. Now, this is a unique motorcycle because it's an electric adventure bike, and range, I'll be honest, is an issue. But when you look at what it actually does, and if you buy it for what it actually does instead of what you hope it does, I think you're going to be really happy. So to me, if you're looking for a bike to go out for 400 or 500 miles in a day, this isn't it. If you're looking for a bike that is a load of fun in a ton of other situations, then this is the exact bike. And one of the things that I kind of want to compare to is right now, when you go out and look at some bikes in like the adventure bike field, you're going to see like everyone's going to look at like the Tenere 700, and everyone loves that bike, and for good reason, but everyone thinks they're Poltaris. It's the same reason why manufacturers are able to sell superbikes still, because everyone is Alex Marquez. They sell supermotos because everyone's Lucas Holbacher. They sell dirt bikes because everyone's Eli Tomac. You get my point with that, is everyone tries to play above actually what they do. And if you look at what most adventure riders do, this does fit pretty well. No, I know, I'm going to hear some flack from people because they're going to say, I want to go out for 500 miles and blah, blah. That's fine. This is not the bike for you. If you're going to go out for an afternoon, if you're going to ride around and want something that's going to have virtually no maintenance, it's going to be a ton of fun and a lot of usability, then this is going to be the bike for you. There's a ton of great features with it. Now, earlier, I stopped to charge this bike while I was out to make sure that I got some mileage on it. I got basically another 20 miles out of sitting there for about 25 minutes, or about 25, 30 minutes or so. And it cost me 96 cents was all in terms of charging. And that was at a charger that had a high rate in terms of the rate, the electricity was expensive. So a number of things really play into that. So this bike, I see a lot of great things with it. The chassis, very stable. It carries its weight way down low. Most of the weight is in the battery down there, so it's going to carry that weight way, way, way down low. Now, there's some things as an experienced motorcyclist that take some getting used to on this. And I think that's one of the good and bad things about it being an electric motorcycle. So first off, my left hand had no idea what to do. I had no idea how many times I went for a clutch when I let off the gas. Well, I let off the electrons. The other thing with this is it is so quiet and there's no vibrations. You think that's a plus, and I'm going to say it is a plus, but one of the things that's interesting about it is you feel everything in the road because there's not that baseline vibration from a piston going up and down, a valve train going, a chain going. There's not all those other vibrations to muddy the waters. You know exactly what is going on with the road. And to me, I think that's actually a plus. It was weird for me to get over initially because I thought, is this coming apart? And I'm like, no, I'm just feeling things that I haven't felt because they were muted before by the motor. Now, one of the shortcomings is range. If you're out stretching this thing's legs at 70 miles an hour plus, it's going to eat through electrons pretty quickly. And the bike does extremely well there. But that's not where this bike shines. This bike has amazing low-speed maneuverability. It does not feel like a 50-pound motorcycle. This feels much, much, much lighter because all that weight, like I said, is so low. The one thing that I do like with this is there is a ton of storage up here. Another thing that's great about it is when you go to pass someone, there's no 2 clicks down and go. You just twist it and it goes. When you cannot obviously be in the wrong gear with this, whatever you're doing, you always have full power, full whack. Whatever you want, it's right there. Now, I will say, in some senses, that's a bit of a drawback too, because what I have found when I'm on an internal combustion engine motorcycle, turning my wrist like this controls about 20 or 30 miles an hour for most gears, be it 3rd, 4th, 5th gear. So when you hit a bump and get a little whiskey throttle, you don't really notice it because the engine's not in a range where it's going to notice that much. 70, 80 miles an hour, you hit a set of railroad tracks and bump this a little bit, you notice it. I don't want to say power wheelie, but it's got the torque to do whatever it wants to. And the fact that you've got 112 miles an hour of speed variability in this amount of throttle can sometimes make that a little bit difficult to control. Now, on the flip side of that, I know there's some buffers that are built into that they've programmed into that. That being said, what those buffers sometimes make it a little bit more difficult off-road when you want to try and lift the front end up over a log or something of that nature. Now this, once again, when you look at the tires and the other items that come on this bike, this is not a hardcore off-road bike. That's not what it's meant for. But if you want to go out and hit some gravel roads or even just some very mild trails, it will let you do that. The suspension on this bike I've really liked. It's stiff enough that you have great road feel, but it's soft enough that you can come out into areas like this and it doesn't beat your brains out. To me, it's a great package in terms of the suspension. So here's my summary of this bike. It's gone into the adventure field, which I think is awesome. You know, this is my space. This is where I roll. But because of that, a lot of people are lumping it in with stuff like the Tenere, the Transalp, the Africa Twin, the Touareg. And that's not it. That's not where this bike plays. If you buy this bike for what it does and what it is, you'll be totally happy. If you think you're Paul Torres and you're going to try and ride this bike like a Tenere, you're not going to like it. Make sure when you're looking at this, you're buying the bike for you. And that's something that I always love to say. This fits so many people so well. They may not want to admit it, but that's exactly what it does. To me, this bike gets a big thumbs up. I've had a ton of fun. I have to take it back to the office now, and I'm not happy about it. I'll see you soon.
All right, guys, we hope you found this review of Zero's 2023 DSR-X insightful and helpful. Overall, we came away really impressed with the bike. We love the look of it, the color, and whether you're a fan of electric or not, you couldn't help but smile when riding the Zero. Because after all, you're still cruising around on 2 wheels. All right, guys, I'm Greg Jones for MPN, and we'll see you on the next review.